If you think the skyscrapers in Christopher Nolan's Inception were futuristic, wait till Saudi Arabia unveils their $1 trillion desert skyscraper, which will be taller than New York's Empire State Building. Once completed, the structure of the brainchild of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, who imagined a structure as ambitious as the Egyptian pyramids. What will it take to make the prince's dream a reality? Hit the like and subscribe button as Lux Life takes you through one of the most ambitious projects of the century going down in Saudi Arabia. Stick around. Saudi Arabia is not a new kid on the block in building mega projects. They already have the Jabal Omar and the Makar Clock Royal Tower to show. If they're embarking on another one, you would expect it to take the world by storm. Let's start with where they're building the skyscraper, the Neon Desert. Saudi Arabia is 95% desert, and the skyscraper will only take up a small part. Groundbreaking projects like Naim are often erected on new sites because sustainable technology cannot be incorporated into an existing city like Riyadh or Makar. During summer, the temperature of the desert rises to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's little to no fresh water. How is it even possible to create a thriving city out of a desert? The plan? Rising from the Neon Desert in northwestern Tabuk province, hundreds of feet up the deep blue sky. A futuristic city carved out of nature's wonder and perfected by technology, the Mirror Line. Once completed, it will be the largest skyscraper ever built. The Mirror Line is 2 linear skyscrapers up to 1,600 feet tall and covered in glass-reflecting materials. Think of the largest mirror in the world. The buildings will run parallel for 75 miles over the coastal mountain and desert environments and help preserve 95% of Neon's land. The line's designs are futuristic and represent how urban neighborhoods will be an environment devoid of highways, vehicles, and pollutants. Following Saudi's plans towards zero emissions, the linear city will be powered entirely by renewable energy and emphasize people's health and well-being over transportation and infrastructure. The skyscraper will be made up of a honeycomb of hotels and apartments. For agriculture, they will rely on vertical farming to cultivate veggies that will be autonomously gathered into communal canteens and co-living kitchens. Since there will be no automobiles and no pollution, a high-speed railway running beneath the buildings will be the only means of transportation besides walking. The concept. A linear city concept like the Mirror Line is nothing new or strange. It has profound origins in urban design. It was conceived as a solution to the problem of accommodating and expanding industry and the people who work in it. The UN projects the world population to reach 9.8 billion in 2050. City planners are working hard to develop better building plans to accommodate the teeming population. A linear city may be a good idea. Residences could occupy one portion, while another part is left for manufacturing. According to the Mirror Line's designers, the skyscraper will serve 9 million people and have a 13 square mile footprint. This will, in turn, reduce the infrastructure footprint. The prince wants a perfect year-round environment, allowing inhabitants to enjoy the surrounding wildlife while walking. He is also hopeful that the Neon would create thousands of new employment and free their kingdom from its reliance on oil for income. The controversies. Some people are concerned with the environmental impact of building such a large structure in the middle of the desert, while others think that the city will never be built. Would you live in the middle of a desert? Brenda K. Shear, a University of Utah professor of city planning and the author of The Evolution of Urban Form, claims that the linear city Saudi is planning is not a new concept, but misses certain fundamentals about how cities work. According to her, most cities aren't designed. That's a misnomer to begin with. Most cities grow from a small place to a large place over hundreds of years, and they start because they have a reason to start. A city is not something that you just plunk down in the desert somewhere. It's not a big house, and that's what this sort of seems like. Even though it is technically possible to build a skyscraper in the middle of nowhere, why build one when people would rather live in thriving cities like New York or Dubai? She continues by saying, the thing that is interesting here is, well, you won't have to have a car, but you don't have to have a car on a Greek island either, and you don't have to have a car in the old Medinas in Saudi Arabia. The only reason to do that is to build a sort of prison for your people and keep them under complete control and darkness. This reveals more about the prince than it does about technology. To Neon supporters, the prince's idea is part of a real endeavor to build a hyper-modern city. They see it as daring, but not crazy. After all, Saudi has been planning economic cities for as long as we can remember. According to the Crown Prince, Saudi Arabia will soon be a hub of innovation and enterprise, free of the corruption and religious fanaticism it is known for. But foreign investors are not buying that. Foreign investment in the Neon has been slow since many Western countries continue to boycott the country due to suspected human rights breaches. The Prince Salman was accused of orchestrating the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, a columnist for the Washington Post in 2018. Although he has denied any knowledge of such events, when Neon was unveiled, tribes living near the mountains were forcibly evacuated from the region, and security allegedly shot a local dead. This made more people give up on Saudi's utopia. Can Saudi Arabia build a $1 trillion skyscraper, or is this a pipe dream? If you took a ride down the northwestern side of Tabak province in Saudi Arabia, chances are you'll see trucks and cranes on a large desert construction has begun and is expected to be completed in 50 years, but the prince thinks otherwise. To him, the project has to be completed by 2030, in line with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. But Neon's rough track so far implies that the prince's urban fantasy may never be realized. Builders and urban planners are still struggling with several issues, like the migration of animals and birds, and how to cope with the structure's influence on groundwater flow. For a project that is supposed to be environmentally friendly, this is a cause for concern. Saudi's linear city echoes a continuous monument, a notion proposed by Superstudio, an Italian architectural collective. A continuous monument is a monolithic, faceless structure covered in reflective glass that would encircle the entire Earth. But it was never intended to be an actual construction proposal. Rather, it was meant to critique excessive urbanization and the modernist megaprojects that were popular back then. No one thought that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia Kingdom would be so fascinated by it even to consider building it. One big issue has been the construction of the subsurface layer meant to house the transportation and logistical infrastructure. Neon employees say that there would be abnormal upfront infrastructure expenditures arising from linear design. Nonetheless, they are working around the clock to complete the line and move forward with other projects. But attempts to move the indigenous occupants of the Neon site, who have lived there for centuries, have been difficult and resulted in a gunfight at some point. Dozens of senior employees have abandoned the project due to the toxic work environment and reckless spending on barren land where they think no one wants to. And worse, Neon has become a big cash out for foreign architects and futurists, each collecting a part of Saudi Arabia's petroleum wealth in exchange for work that some think will never be used. Another scary thing about the city is the government. The territory will be governed by the Neon Authority, which will be headed by the Saudi king, which will be the prince whenever he replaces his father, King Salman. If the controversies around him are true, then the linear city just might become a dystopia. It could be separated from the rest of the country by an 8-digit border, allowing only those with authority to enter. An advisory council will represent the residents, but no one knows how and if they will be elected. What could go wrong with Saudi's $1 trillion skyscraper? For starters, who wants to invest $1 trillion into a new city when the one they live in is just fine? The project may fail to reach its goals because of funding problems or other issues related to construction and maintenance costs. Saudi Arabia has a long list of abandoned projects that failed due to funding problems, so if the planned linear city makes the list, it shouldn't come as a surprise. Who wants to live in the middle of nowhere? Building a new city is not enough, but what about the occupants? It's not a city if no one lives there. It's like plucking humans off their natural habitat and dropping them off somewhere to fight for survival. What about the environment? You could pull down hundreds of old buildings and erect a new city and get applauded for it. But when you stake billions of dollars into a desert, the whole world will raise eyebrows. It's a desert for a reason. It's nature's work. How do you keep the temperatures cool during the summer when temperatures reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit? Another challenge is that the northwestern part of Saudi Arabia is a seismotectonic zone. A magnitude of 3.1 earthquake is strong enough to throw citizens off balance. Would you live in Saudi Arabia's $1 trillion utopian city?